as I've just talked a lot about and do a lot of analysis lately, the last fall has been looking at Sutcliffe Maudsley's artwork, and I've noticed a lot of his artwork usually shows him with this hairline. You definitely see a receding hairline going back there. But when and so I did a little analysis of this, just pointing out things, even though his art wasn't so perfect that I could superimpose. Of course, it's a profile. I just can't. I could just point out that the shape of that eyebrow, it's really strange, like the different things he pointed out, which it's kind of a funny, interesting shape of his right eyebrow. It's just very thick, very bushy eyebrows. Emma said that she told her sons that when she first met him, he had very, very bushy eyebrows. So if you're looking at this, you see that bushy eyebrow by Maudsley, and you're seeing hairline at the very top, kind of receding back. But when I, for the first time, saw this particular one, because I was scrolling through, I'm like, this looks so different. He looks so much older. What's interesting, even though it's the same artist, and he's facing the same direction, but I had found this on a blog where it was facing the other way, which would mean some of these unique things I'm going to point out would make more sense if this was flipped. Like if I inverted this, if I selected this and flipped it around, it makes sense because I believe I have a photograph of him and I've studied his features that he's facing this way, because you really notice how much he has very little hair on the side of his head. So you're just really seeing this comb over, trying to cover this receding hairline, hair trying to come forward and it's going to the side, but you're seeing his hair he's very bald on the side of his hair, which is not very typical on the side of your head. But Levi Hancock said that Joseph had lost hair on the side of his head, and this is probably 1842, this drawing. It was 10 years before that, I think. It was the 1830s that Levi Hancock said that he showed him on the side of his head, like the side. And that's why historians that emailed me from the church history department were saying he combed his hair forward. They also didn't think my guy combed his hair forward. And I totally disagree, because I can tell he combs his hair forward. Anyway, so, but this makes sense because as you're looking at this, that bushy eyebrow's not there anymore. And then you're seeing less hair than you've seen in any other depictions by Maudsley. But you're seeing a comb over, and you're seeing hair brushed forward. And like I've said before, I think that extra hair, just in the summertime, I think he got it cut off and then got his picture taken. Because maybe it was just annoying having this comb forward on this bald head and working on a farm, wearing a hat all the time. Maybe it just bothered him and he cut it all off. Don't know. Because that's what it looks like on the death mask, that he just chopped this thick, it just looks like it was cut straight to the hairline. Anyway, so you're really seeing this eyebrow that just sort of stops right at the end of the eye, before the end of the eye. It's just that eyebrow's just done with, there's no hair. And you're seeing less hair on the side of his head. So that would make sense, since I believe my picture is him, and other people do, that I can't name drop, if he was actually facing the other way. But I don't know. The church history department replied and just said whatever was on the website is correct. And that was during Christmas time and they were busy. And they've been flippant before, like also not thinking my guy's collar was high enough. I'm like, how could it be any higher if it wasn't way past his jawline? So, just don't know. Because that collar, it covers his jaw, so it's not a low collar at all. And so what I was doing today was analyzing opposite issues with the death mask, if that makes sense. So as we're looking at him, take that away. Okay, there we go. I put a grid on here, and then you have his face. Make sure I'm selecting all this here. Yeah, so I've got this lined up perfectly in the middle of his eye, right where the pupil is, and then I have one blue line showing that right side of his head, that his hairline is normal on the left side. It's not equal. He doesn't have a symmetrical hairline on the side of his head. And so there on the right, it's just quite a bit longer. It's not like crazy dramatic, but it is definitely a lot longer. And then the right side is shorter, so his hairline comes in farther. But then when you look at the death mask, you're seeing a symmetrical problem, but it's opposite. And I've talked about this before, having seen and studied the skulls, which I can't, if I have permission from the people that own it, can't just like flippantly just make a video. So I wish I could just totally like make a video and analyze that. I mean, I wish somebody would study them, because I'm just so intrigued by the skulls, but can't. So I want to though, anyway. So yeah, you're seeing, like I've said, anytime I do my superimposing, that right side, pretty much that hairline just really falls into place really well. And if I just select the death mask here and kind of make it smaller, bigger, you really see on the right side, the hairline is really, really matching up as it goes up to the middle of the head. And then once it gets to the middle and goes to the left side of his head, it drops off. And so you're seeing an opposite problem. But the thing is, the death mask is covering more. Other people have said, well, it's not true, but I think he's covering more on the right side of his head than on the left. And that has to do with how he died. Because he fell out the window, according to Willard Richards, who was a doctor and just very intellectual. Stuck his head out the window and saw him. I mean, he saw him fall out the window. He saw him hit the ground on his head on the left side of his head. So he hit his head first and fell on the left side. So I think the left side of his skull. So if you look at the skulls, there's drawings of them. I can't show you the originals. I wish I could, but yeah. The one that I think is his, and then another doctor, people, and I say who I agree with. There's two people that totally disagreed about the skulls, and one I believe was an actual doctor. I agree with him. And so the skull I believe that is Joseph's has more of the face, but on the side, it's just missing. He's missing some bones on just straight on the side, though. And so that I think could be from impact damage, and it also goes on the both sides, that specific skull. It's interesting. But anyway, we're not looking at that, so I won't keep talking about that. But you see this blue line. I mean, this falls right in. It covers where the skin is, and then of course they stopped where the hair started, and so that matches up really well with my picture. But then you get over here, like I've put the death mask on there as evenly as I could, and so the skull I'm showing, and it looks even more dramatic because he has less hair, so it looks like it really doesn't match. But the death mask itself isn't covering his face symmetrically, whether it broke or what I've been saying the whole time since I think 2017. I think it's because I read Willard Richards' account. He fell on his head, so I think there's just, his skull is just crushed, because he fell on his head and then landed on his left side. So I think it was more the left side of his head possibly was just crushed in. I don't know, but that's what from looking at the skull, and one doctor a decade or so ago agreed that was his skull. So anyway, the death mask is not symmetrical. So we're just taking this line again. This is smack dab. That line right there is in the middle of his face. But there's more. It covered more of the right side of his face than the left side. So when you're superimposing, it kind of throws you off. But I think that's what's going on. And again, just if you look at the different artwork by Maudsley, it it tends to often just look quite different. So, and then of course, if you look at like the RLDS painting, it doesn't show him losing any hair. And so that's the one that everyone looks at and they think he just never lost his hair. But this one, it just more dramatically of all the work by Maudsley. I mean, this one slightly shows him losing a little bit of hair. You know, I think he just chose to be more forgiving. But people will just argue and see different things and look at a painting and like, I don't see this, I see that. So the guy 2 years ago just saw round eyebrows. He might have been looking at the other eyebrow that is just missing some of the eyebrow. And so it just, you know, but I think the 2 martyrs, do I have that one up here, is the only one I've seen where the eyebrows actually look round. And I think that's what someone sent me. I didn't upload it here, but they always, and I looked at this, I'm like, it's not round. Did you look at this one? You know, it just, you're seeing that very thick eyebrow coming down. And you're seeing it come down right there. And so I pointed out these different features that I found really interesting. Probably not enough to make a whole video because it's just, but Maudsley did get his profile and was able to shine a light and then draw his exact profile. So this, I think this one and many others, he did sketch over it. It just wasn't, it's just not perfect, but this is a really good rendition. You're seeing almost like kind of like those lines, almost like he has bags under his eyes. I don't know. You're seeing that matching here. And so I'm thinking this is the right side of his head where he had more hair. And then I do think this is possibly the left side of his head. I mean, either way, this looks so different. Maybe this was 1844 or 1843. I don't know. I don't know why there isn't enough information about Maudsley's work, but at least it's on the church's website and we own the originals. So I would love to be able to go to Salt Lake City and actually see them in person. That would be great, but I don't feel like driving up there and I'm not a scholar, so they would never let me do it. So that's okay. Anyway, yeah, so this one is just really eye-opening and you're seeing this mole and different things that you just don't, and you're seeing the eyebrow that just goes halfway through and ends, whereas you're seeing a thicker eyebrow here and you're seeing more hair. So anyway, just in conclusion, the death mask is not symmetrical in opposite ways. But again, I think that has to do with falling headfirst out a 2-story window, falling on the left side of his head. So that's what I have for you today. This video will probably not end up in a scientific journal, but it's just for fun for me. You know, like I'm not a scientist, but I do have a degree and I'm able to study things in my amateur level that I can. And there are people that, you know, are scientists and could write one. And I think that is awesome. And that's really cool. There are people that can do that. And it's neat that I've talked to some of them. Anyway, have a good day.